cue number 8,264,567 videos that are reviewing the PlayStation 4 controller, but god damn it, I have fucking opinions too, and I feel like sharing them, and if nobody cares about them, then I have no clue why they even showed up here to this video. It's a PlayStation 4 controller. I feel like reviewing it because it is drastically different, well, you know, sort of, kinda, in a way, teensy-wincy little drastic by comparison to things like the DualShock 3, which I have here for all intents and purposes of being able to have a comparison to, you know, what the hell has happened over the course of time. Now, I was going to compare PlayStation 1, 2, 3, and 4, but it seemed kind of redundant because this is essentially the same exact controller, with the exception of the triggers being changed up here. Unless we're going to talk about the very first generation PlayStation 3 controller, which they never released a boomerang. That I would love to have gotten my hands on. That thing looked fucking ridiculous. I just want to chuck it out a window, have it come back, and just do some Crocodile Dundee fucking shanking and stabbing with it. So let's get on with the review, since I'm just talking about random fucking 80s and 90s movies and shit like that. Anyhow, so here's a controller. I've seen tons of pictures, tons of videos, tons of hands-on impressions, reviews, and shit like that, but I never had my mitts on it, and frankly, you never know how to truly feel about something until you get your hands on it, and that's really essentially the truth about it. Even when I saw the, like, PlayStation 4 kiosk, I did not feel like waiting in line to get my fucking hands on it. I wanted to get my shit and leave, because all those fucking mouth breathers was running around and didn't want to deal with that shit. The controller feels comfortable as shit. For example, the handles on it, you'll notice that it feels a little bit wider, and the handles on it are a little bit longer. That I definitely like. Because anybody that has big mitts, my mitts, and I can't wait for a new Sin City, by the way. But anyhow, so anybody that has big hands knows damn well you're able to dwarf this controller and just fucking, like, you won't be able to see it whatsoever. We're not talking about something like, you know, the original Xbox Duke controller, which essentially was like a home protection service plan that if somebody broke in, you swing that fucker because you're mighty and strong and you knock them the fuck out. But this is a welcome addition. Your hands are further apart. The entire fucking handle on it doesn't just like dig into the middle of your palm, which is really nice. That's something is, you know, extremely welcome my eyes. The triggers. This is probably one of the best things that they did with it, because this I fucking hated. Granted, there was third-party companies that put out little accessories that you could go and add on to this so that these wouldn't just get tapped. You have no idea how many times this would just hit against something and you're lobbing grenades or doing accidental moves or some shit like that in various games by accident. Then you want to freak the fuck out, throw the controller, and unlike the first generation PlayStation 3 controller, which we never got our mitts on, the boomerang controller, that fucker won't be coming back. It's just going to crash and careen right into a wall or a TV or into a loved one's face, and the fact is, you're not going to feel too good after that, unless that was all, like, set up and you want to go and do that. Then you're just a dick. You're a dick. Anyway, so triggers, very awesome. They're more resistive. That's one of the things that I noticed. These, I can barely press it and it goes down. This, you feel like, you know, there's a whole lot more to it. Now, somebody might say, yeah, but, you know, you've had this controller for a while. No fucking shit, Sherlock. Even if you buy the brand new ones, these aren't nearly as resistive as this. I just like that a whole bunch. On top of the controller, you'll notice that R1 and L1 are also a little bit bigger. That I do like quite a bit, just because overall, again, it feels a lot nicer. They're also raised up a little bit more by comparison to the DualShock 3, so you feel like you're really pressing it in, and it's one of those things that's kind of hard to describe that it feels better, because you'll sit there and be like, I don't get it. What do you mean that it feels better? It's like, you just gotta fucking touch it. Just press it, press it, press it, press it. Ooh, what does this button do? Well, that right there actually pulls the trigger, DD. So, anyhow, the analog sticks. This was something that everybody was making a really big deal about, that these were more resistive and they felt a lot more accurate whenever you were playing things. And that with the little concave design, as opposed to this where it's like bubbled up and stuff, that this felt a lot better and it had more grip, and that is 100% accurate. After playing this for many, many years, and, you know, on PlayStation 2, which essentially had the same exact kind of analog sticks, and going into playing this, and keep in mind, I've been playing PlayStation 4 since I got it damn near fucking non-stop. I put in lots of hours on LEGO Avengers, on knack, on Killzone, on, damn, I can't remember the space shooting game, but holy shit, it's really awesome, in contrast, and some other stuff. But I've put in well over, just gameplay time, at least about 24 to 30 hours of playing various games, and overall, yeah, I'm digging these quite a bit. The D-pad, which you'll notice, is also a little bit different. The D-pad, up, down, left, and right, in each direction, is a lot bigger than the previous D-pad, and it's also not textured like this one is. It is concaved in the center, whereas this one isn't. Now, I haven't gotten to sit down and play something like, I don't know, hours on end of Guilty Gear, where this would give me a fucking blister. Keep in mind, I actually really like the D-pad on the PlayStation controllers. Overall, they've just always been really good. The only ones I can compare them to being just as awesome would probably be the Super Nintendo. But on here, I would need to have something like that where I'm playing it for hours and hours and hours and doing fucking like half circle forward fucking dragon punches and fireball motions and shit like that to be able to tell you whether or not this is really awesome. But it gets the job done, I'll tell you that much. Right there, you can see, obviously, holy shit, there isn't a start and select. What's going on? Well, that's the touchpad right there. The touchpad, well, not too many games have been utilizing this just yet. Killzone, for example, whenever you're using the owl, up, down, left, and right will perform different actions with the owl. So, you know, you can go and throw up your shield, you can go and put it into combat mode, you can have it hack things, and shit like that. So, essentially, this will perform 4 different functions altogether. Various other games really don't use it a whole bunch, but I am kind of curious, you know, what this could mean. I kept on thinking about strategy-type games, going and using this in place of having something like a mousepad, or a trackpad rather, on something like a laptop, an Ultrabook, and things of that nature. So it makes me kind of curious how that could come across. Most people are going to write it off as gimmicky. For the time being, I'm just going to wait and see what developers are going to be able to do with something like this. But you can also press it in, which I didn't know about that until I got my hands on it. I was just like, oh, it presses in, huh. It makes me kind of curious if it can be pressed in on different parts of it, or if it just confirms that it's just one big press. So if you press on the left side or the right side, does that say, you know, it's being pressed in 2 different ways? That I'm not 100% certain on, because, again, really no games are fucking around with something like that. So we will have to go and see about that. Now, up there, you will see that there is a light bar. Obviously, there isn't no such thing on the other PlayStation controllers. Now, these light up to go and say, you know, oh, this is player 1, this is player 2, and it'll light up as blue, red, green, and things like that. I personally haven't really had anything go and take advantage of this just yet, and my cat also is coming into the screen. Here, say hi. Want to see the controller? You see it? Yeah, there we go. Anyway, so she had to say hi. She was just like, oh, I see you're fucking about with the controller. Also, there's a cat hair. Anyhow, so I got the PlayStation camera, which that pretty much just, you know, recognizes that you have the controller, so it can go and keep track of things that are going on with it. But not a whole lot has taken advantage of it, so that's another thing. It's like, well, the verdict will be out on that later at some other point. One of the things I do not like about the controller is the fact that this has micro USB, whereas this has a mini USB. Now, micro USB, you might be thinking, what is the big deal? Well, a lot of things don't take advantage of micro USB, whereas mini USB, we have tons of shit that does take advantage of that. And the cord that comes with it is short as shit, and that always bugs the living fuck out of me. So if you plan on going and investing a lot of time into it, I would say go onto Amazon. There's like a 6-foot cord on there that's like only $2 and change. Go and pick that up. It's got a decent rating, and I'm sure that there's other companies out there. Sony will probably be one of the companies that goes and puts out a very long extended cord. It'll be worth the time, because the battery life on this isn't as long as I thought it would be. I'm kind of curious as to one of the reasons why that is. Is it because of the light sensor? You know, there's a lot of factors into that could go and play into it, but it's supposed to last about 7 to 8 hours, and a lot of people, I can imagine, won't be satisfied with that, because gaming sessions for some people can last well beyond that, you know, with piss and shit and drink and food breaks and stuff like that in between, and obviously, like, fucking about on the internet and your phone and stuff like that. So you will be plugging this in quite a bit. There is a little speaker right there, similar to the Wii controller, and this, like, playing Knack and a couple other things, sounds were coming out of this. I personally don't see the big deal about something like that. You know, that's something, again, developers would have to take advantage of. I don't really see the point to something like that. I think it's kind of silly. But then again, somebody in the comments might be able to think of, you know, this would be really awesome if they did that with it. But me personally, I would have just taken it out altogether for the sheer hell of it. But that's just my personal opinion. And down here, we have little ports for headphones and stuff like that, and headsets and stuff. Well, the one that they include with the PlayStation 4 is pretty much crap overall. So you'll be buying a headset, I assure you 100%, if that's like one of your main things, it's like your online gaming and stuff like that, you'll go and buy a new headset, so just be prepared for that. So all 360 owners, you're pretty much used to seeing something like that. PlayStation owners, on the other hand, are just used to seeing Jack and shit, and Jack left town. So there is that. Now, the back of the controller and down on the bottom, it is textured. Now, for a long time just looking at it, you would think that's rubberized, but it's actually just plastic. And I thought, oh man, it's plastic, it's going to feel really cheap. It really doesn't. It just feels like it has more of a grip to it. I've seen certain tablets have it. I think, what is it, the one Nexus tablet has the back of it that's all ridged like that. And a lot of phone cases, stuff like that, are pretty much the same exact way. So it's something that you'll be pretty used to having. Whether or not it's going to give you that extra grip, like if your hands get slimy and sweaty to the point that controllers are just slipping out of your hands, you might want to consult a doctor or a physician or some shit like that, because you've got something that might be terminal. I'm just saying. Like, you'll be turning to sludge at some point. You'll be like in a fucking Stephen King movie. Anyhow, so PlayStation button right there does the same exact thing that you would imagine a PlayStation button is supposed to do. It pretty much brings up your PlayStation menu. Yep, that's pretty much it. Nothing extremely new about that. Right here we have the share button. Now the share button, I can be honest, I have not really fucked with, because it's Twitch and something else on there I can't think of off the top of my head. You'll have to excuse me, because I do not do any kind of scripting. I kind of just talk. So the share button is so that you can share photos, share videos, streams, and things like that. And so that's something anybody who plans on doing that. I would really like to see them go and integrate this with YouTube as well. I know that they have their contractual deals with certain companies, but, you know, I do YouTube shit and I don't do all the other stuff. So I'd really like to see the share function do something like that. The options button essentially seems to have taken place of the start button from everything that I've seen. So when you hit options, that's essentially kind of like bringing up your start menu. So yeah, you have that. Now, the face buttons are pretty much exactly what you've been used to. Square, triangle, circle, X, nothing different about that. But I did notice something. If you've ever checked out channel Review Tech USA, an extremely kick-ass channel I've been watching for I don't even know how many fucking years now, but he had pointed out something that these are they're actually symmetrical now, whereas these ones weren't. I'm like, no shit. Yeah, these are actually further apart than these are. So horizontal, it goes out further. Vertically, it's actually shorter. That fucked my head up and then some. I was like, I never noticed that. And it's just one of those things like, you know, you can't unsee it. So yeah, that kind of stuck out in my head. But for me, it's pretty much the same exact thing. It doesn't really feel a whole lot different whenever you're holding them, I'll be honest. But, you know, I guess there's more symmetry. Yay! Normally we've seen L and R up there. This doesn't have that anymore, so it's just nice and clean. They don't have that whatsoever. I noticed that there's like a sharp little groove going along the edges right here, whereas this, it's kind of just raised up. That I wonder, I'm like, oh man, will that dig into your hand? But that never ever comes into play, so you never have to go and fret about that whatsoever. But yeah, overall, I have to say I'm pretty damn happy with it, except for the micro USB thing, because they're really just not nearly as common, and frankly, I want to go and use the ones from this, and I've got, you know, the little mini USB cords all over the fucking house, but, you know, c'est la vie, shit happens. The battery life is another thing that kind of concerned me, because as of right now, I haven't heard anything about having battery replacements for this, and I don't want to have to go and continuously cough up $60, especially long down the road whenever the system no longer is supported. I'd like to be able to go and replace things like this, or just put in a better battery altogether. You know, there's a lot of devices out there that allow you to go and do something like that, so who knows, somebody will find some kind of fangled way to go and do something like that. We always do. If it's made by man, it can be deconstructed by man. So the honest verdict, I do like it a bunch. This, I'm not really sure about. Again, I do have to see if more developers will really fuck with it. I do like the fact that the controller is a lot bigger, the handles are bigger, D-pad's bigger, the triggers are fixed. That is a fucking godsend, and then some. The analog sticks, you know, being, they're just overall better. You know, these... just tap them and go forward. This has a lot more resistance to it, and whenever you're going for accuracy in games, that's very, very, very important, especially when you need to do very subtle nudges with an analog stick. You know, if you're just trying to peer around a corner or move a character silently, or just aim that perfect shot and things like that, you know, that counts a whole bunch, because we're not using a mouse and keyboard setup, so these have to be the shit overall. Is it as good as the GameCube analog sticks? I don't know. That's kind of hard to say. Oh yeah, I didn't actually. L3 and R3, yes, they still work. There you go. Forgot to mention that. Sorry about that. But I do. I like the controller a whole bunch. I'll even go as far as to say, out of all the PlayStation controllers, I do think this is the best one that they've made thus far. Because they've taken the time to go and listen to all the complaints about this fucker right here, and there were many. Especially after the Xbox 360 controller came out, a lot of people got to see, you know, wow, that's just overall a better controller in many different ways, except for the bumpers. I never liked the bumper buttons on the Xbox 360 controller. That bugged the shit out of me, and then some. But this, they pretty much, they got everything nailed down. This, not too sure about that, not too sure about this, but the main components of it that matter the most to me as a gamer, face buttons work really well, just like they're supposed to, analog sticks, awesome, triggers, awesome, D-pad, awesome, handles, awesome, controller is awesome, just get better battery life on this, or allow us to go and put in a better battery overall, and maybe down the road, put the mini USB, I have no shit. But either way, I will go and give it a big old fucking thumbs up of approval. So yeah, there you have it. You got to see 2 generations of PlayStation controllers compared side by side. And that's my honest verdict of it. I'm digging it. I really am, overall. And if you don't believe me, just go out to a fucking kiosk and try it out yourself, so then you can be like, yay! Or, no, I think it sucks balls for this and this and this reason. So anyway, I'm gonna go back to fucking about with my games, because, well, that's what the hell I bought the goddamn system for. Anyway, so I want to thank you all for showing up and listening to me go and rabble-babble about this stuff and go and say stuff about it. Anyway, this is AlphaOmegaSin, as always, nerds, nerdettes, and gamers. Game the fuck on.